I want to get your legal reaction, both state and federal, in terms of state and federal laws, to what you heard in that phone call.
Well, first, thanks for having me back. And you're right. I did file a complaint with the state election board about Senator Graham's conduct. And really, this conduct by the president fits hand in hand with that. It's pretty clear that he uses some threats. You can hear them. It's almost like listening to an episode of The Sopranos in his recorded call with the secretary, where he essentially says, look, I need the votes. There's some bad things that are going to happen. People are laughing at you. By the way, you may be in legal trouble for not investigating certain things. So he threatens him. He coerces him. He tries to strong arm him into not doing his job, or to, as he calls it, recalculating the outcome of the election. That seems to me to be a pretty clear effort at trying to influence a state official in the performance of their official duties, but also to commit election fraud. And so I think it's an interesting time. If you ask me, and I heard you on your prior guest, Congressman Schiff, this to me looks like a state offense. It happened in the state. The president just happened to make the poor judgment to make his telephone call into a state that allows one-party consent for the recording. And so we've got the recording. We listened to him on tape, and he's just like a lot of the other criminal defendants, and that is that they just make stupid mistakes. That is, if they don't know when to shut their mouth. They either talk too much on a call or on a wire, or sometimes they send silly messages, emails, or texts, and that's what's caught him, and that's essentially what's caught him here. The problem he's got as well is that he's in a state which does not have the governor's authority to pardon individuals. So you mentioned his quest maybe to do a all-encompassing, burning the incense and giving himself a grand pardon for everything he's ever done. Well, in Georgia, that would be a decision made for the Board of Pardons and Parole. So he really has probably stepped in it as far as state law here. And while it's a lot to ask a new DA to look at, it seems pretty clear that the president's laid out a case, at least in that hour-long telephone conversation, that merits some further investigation.
Richard Hasson, what about a federal case? You could have a federal prosecution investigation anyway on this call in the Washington, D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office where the call originated, or in the Georgia U.S. Attorney's Office where the call was received.
Right. I think this is going to come down to a question of what the Biden Attorney General is going to want to do. Because I think certainly if you look at both the federal statute and the Georgia state statute, which we just heard about, they both prevent people from intentionally stuffing a ballot box. That is literally coming up with fake votes to try to alter the election process. That deprives Georgia voters of the ability to vote in a way that is in line with how it actually reflects the will of the people of Georgia. The real question would come down to a political one as to whether or not any federal prosecutors would want to go after a former president, and also the question of intent. It could be that Trump is so deluded by the kinds of false claims that he made in this rambling hour-long call that he actually believes that there are votes to be found, that Raffensperger has not done his job, and that, in fact, he was entitled to win the election. That would be a jury question. But before we ever get to a jury, it's a political question as to whether any federal prosecutor is going to go forward against the former president.